Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another local COVID update with the team at Piedmont Newton. I'm Debbie Harper. I'm joining you from home today because I was tested positive for COVID this week on Tuesday, and it has not been enjoyable. It's been a rough week, but I will say, thankfully, I was vaccinated. And I'm assuming I had a mild case. I can't imagine what severe COVID would be like. This is the first day I felt up to doing anything, and I'm glad to be able to join you guys and get more information out on COVID and what's going on here in our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, David.
Well, thanks, Debbie, and sorry that you got COVID. Does give you a greater appreciation for what folks have gone through. I had a mild case of COVID back in late August, early September, and it was the same situation. I was in bed for 4 days, ran a temperature, really felt terrible, and just laid there and thought, what this would be like if I had a severe case. And unfortunately, of course, we've seen a lot of those folks and had both the privilege and the burden of caring for them over the last year and a half. So anyway, it's good to see you on the mend and glad you're back. I just wanted to, we'll do the same format. I'll give you a sense of what's going on in the hospital, and then I'll turn it over to my partner in crime here, Dr. Little, to talk a little bit about, maybe what we're seeing more broadly, and give some advice around how to move forward with your business effectively and the challenges you're most likely facing, and how to respond to those. And then kick it to Andrea just for a call to action around help and thanks and other things. So we'll do that. And just unfortunately, where we are in the hospital has been a very difficult and challenging 2 weeks. This last COVID wave hit us right before Christmas, started really spiking. Our volume started going up. The number of patients coming through the emergency department really shot up. And actually, we peaked at almost double what we usually see coming through our emergency department. We're not prepared from a staff and space perspective to handle the kind of volume. And then, of course, many of those patients turn into inpatients, and so it puts pressure on our beds. We're a 103 licensed bed facility, and over the last 2 weeks, we've consistently been, but somewhere between 20 and 40% over capacity, meaning we have more patients in the hospital than we have licensed beds. And it's not just here at Newton. That's true really across our region and through most of the state. So transferring patients from one facility to the next has been a real struggle as well. To compound that challenge, with this particular wave, the Omicron wave, because the disease has been so contagious, the amount of folks in our society who have gotten it has been 3- and 4-fold what we saw in earlier waves. And of course, healthcare workers are not immune. And so even though the vast majority of our workforce is vaccinated, they're still getting COVID. And so combine the volume at the hospital with what has been between 40 and 50 people at a time out with COVID, it has been a very challenging operating environment for the hospital. I will say that I am just incredibly proud of my team of leaders and my team of frontline employees who have showed up. They haven't complained. They haven't quit, and they're still committed to taking care of our community. But this is our 5th wave. This particular wave hit over Christmas and New Year's holiday, which is, ordinarily a time when people get to spend time with their family and sort of reflect on all the good things that they have in their life. And, this huge challenge has come. So That's what's going on in the hospital. I do expect that, and what we're seeing in following this latest wave in other parts of the world and even other parts of the United States, I do expect that it will fall as fast as it rose. And as a matter of fact, the last 24 to 48 hours, we're starting to see a little bit of a decline in our community transmission and positivity rate. And so that's a good sign. And I really do believe that, this time, by the end of the month, that I think we'll be in a much better position to serve our community. But I just want to apologize to any of you who have been out there who have come into our emergency department needing something and, having to wait for hours and hours and hours. It's not our desire to operate that way, but we really have just been forced to over the last several weeks. And so as this wave progresses through and we kind of get over this part of it, we'll get back to normal operations and providing the great, not only healthcare, but customer service that we aim to do for our community. So with that, I'll kick it over to Dr. Little and have him fill in the blanks and just talk maybe a little bit about workforce challenges that we've had and how we've handled those. And maybe that might apply to your business as well. And anything else you'd like to talk about, Dr. Little?
Sure. As David said, this variant is it's been a very contagious illness. I guess more contagious than anything that I've seen in my career. And fortunately, it has not been as severe as previous variants in terms of illness for some people. Although we still continue to see severe illness, that resulting in ICU, intensive care unit care, mechanical ventilation and intubation, and certainly death still occurs with this. And we're grateful that it's not, is not potentially as severe for some people as the previous variant. So that's been a good thing. Still, the message is the majority of people that develop severe illness are unvaccinated. Obviously, there's breakthrough COVID with vaccinated people with this illness, but most of them do not require hospitalization, and the majority of people that end up in our intensive care units and have severe disease are the unvaccinated population. And so we continue to think that's a great. The vaccine is certainly a way to avoid severe disease, especially in high-risk patient populations. We continue to, kind of manage it locally with our, protective equipment and masking and eye protection and so forth with patients, because the prevalence of this disease is so great. We make the assumption that basically everyone that comes into the hospital has COVID, because if you look at the community, almost everyone has been touched by this variant in some way, family members or friends or neighbors. And, with this variant, I think what we say is that, you can you're going to get this, and you can either get it vaccinated or unvaccinated. Basically, that's sort of my message around it. The idea that you can protect yourself from getting it is a bit naive. We encourage people to if especially high risk people to protect themselves with the vaccine, because it's going to be exceedingly difficult to do it in another manner. We've as David said, had very challenging times with staff, and we've had volumes in our hospital that have exceeded anything that we've ever experienced. So it's been a challenging couple of weeks for everyone. That looks like the prevalence, the test positivity rate for our county is going down a little bit, but we're still above the peak that we were with previous variants. So there's still many people getting COVID and contracting COVID in the community. So if there are specific, questions around it, be happy to answer those if I can. And I get lots of questions about booster and when to get. So now I get the question. I got a question the other day. So if I had the vaccine, but I didn't have a booster, and now I have COVID, when should I get a booster? And or should I get a booster? And I think, the answer to that is if you had COVID, if you had a vaccine and now you have COVID, your immune system is pretty much, ramped up as much as it's going to get, at least for the short term. And I don't, and this is opinion, there's no recommendation from the CDC, there's no recommendation from the NIH, but I would not rush out to get a booster if I just got over COVID. I think, especially if you've been vaccinated, I think you could certainly give that some time and kind of see what happens over the next 6 months or so before doing that. So that's a question I've been asked on multiple occasions.
One of the questions I've been asked is, what's our policy around bringing people back to work who have recently tested positive? And what we do here, we have followed the CDC guidelines on that. So essentially, it's a 5-day quarantine period from the start of symptoms. So not from the start of testing positive, but from the start of symptoms, as long as the employee hasn't had a fever over the last 24 hours. So if you're fever free and you're past 5 days, you can come back to work. We encourage people to wear a mask, just to limit their transmission to others for additional 5-day period. Of course, here at the hospital, everyone wears a mask all the time. So It's not an issue for us, but we do not require a negative test to come back to work, even after the 5 days, as long as symptoms have subsided. So I know some employers are requiring a negative test, and we just don't think that's necessary. And frankly, it would really cut down on our ability to provide care to patients. So,
I think I would agree with that. And the problem with PCR tests is that they can stay positive for weeks and weeks and weeks. So they're not very useful in determining whether or not a person is infectious. The other testing issue, with the Omicron, is that some of the rapid tests, we've seen that people have tested early and it's been negative, and they test a couple of days later and it's positive. So there are some, with this variant, the rapid test may not be quite as sensitive as with previous variants, especially early in the disease process.
Yeah, when I started symptoms on Monday, and I tested Monday, and it was negative. Yeah. And then I tested positive on Tuesday. So I agree with that, and the same with my husband, who has it as well. So but I will say one great thing. I was able, if you have a Piedmont doctor and you use your Piedmont portal, I was able to communicate with my doctor to get some medicines, and so encourage people to be able to communicate with their doctor through the portal if they have a Piedmont physician. It's easy, it's convenient, and I was really glad I had that and was able to use that function during this time as well. So
thanks for the shameless plug, Debbie.
Exactly.
I know.
That's good to know. It's good to know that works well.
Yeah, it was definitely, you didn't have to wait for a call back, leave a message, wait for a call back. It was almost an instantaneous reply back to my message. And so I was very thankful for that. So thank you. If you guys don't
one of the other questions we get is about the new antibody pills. Mm-hmm. And, what the data does show that the previous antibody infusions and injections that we used for Delta really were not effective at preventing severe symptoms in Omicron. But the drug companies, particularly I think Merck and Pfizer, have come out with products that are oral, so you can take a pill. And if you meet certain risk criteria and you have caught your disease early enough, doctors will prescribe you with that pill. It's an antiviral pill. And unfortunately, the state distributes those. And right now we don't have a local pharmacy that you can fill those in. So I think you have to go to Athens.
Stockbridge, Athens,
Stockbridge,
Milledgeville have access to it. There are 2, Paxlovid and Molnupiravir. So just depending on other medicines you may be taking or other health conditions, they may choose a different medication, but they both appear to have some pretty good effectiveness against this variant.
Yeah. Good. All right.
So with that, Andrea, anything you want to add?
Well, first of all, I always want to start with a thank you. Thank you to everybody who has been so supportive of our staff in this hospital over the past 22 months. I can't believe we're saying 22 months. That means 2 years is around the corner. But we could use your help now with this 5th wave. It's putting a huge strain on our staff once again. And if you and your business are so moved to share some love and support with us, we'd gladly take it. I can coordinate that with you directly. You don't have to come up with an idea. If you're just not sure where to start, please reach out to me. Debbie has my contact information, or I can put it in the chat. Just shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And there's no donation too small, meaning if you just want to, send snacks or some subs or something to one department, we can arrange that. You don't have to feed the whole hospital. Please don't feel like that's the case. But thanks again for everything that you've done for us. And we've felt the love, and we appreciate your prayers. Couldn't have kind of gotten through all of this without all of you.
Yeah, well said, Andrea. And quite frankly, some days the love and support that you all have shown us is the thing we have to offer our staff for that day, because the reality of the operating environment we're in is just incredibly challenging. And so it means a lot. I want to thank you as well. And, we really live in a great community, and you can tell that by how generous the people are. So thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. And I just want to thank you all for what you've done, as Andrea said, the last 22 months. I'm glad that we're able to have these conversations. You all have made yourselves available to our community. And I just thank you on behalf of the community for that, because I don't think many of us would be where we are without your guidance and support over this last almost 2 years. So with that, I don't think we have any questions today. I just want to thank you all for joining us. And we'll do these chats as we see necessary, as things change in the community with COVID. And thank you guys, and I hope you have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Debbie.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.